Welcome back, MTG Joe here. Today we are going to be looking at the top performing decks in the standard best of 3 traditional standard ladder. These are the highest win rate decks as tracked by a companion tool on TapGG. Tracks win rates of all the users who use it, aggregate it, and then provide these deck stats. The link is in the video description below if you are interested in starting to use Untapped. I'll paste all these deck lists as well, including video descriptions. If you're looking for standard best of 1 content, we posted the video yesterday. It's up in the playlist. If you're looking for Explorer, Historic, we also have kind of breakdowns for each of those formats as well in the playlist itself, the meta breakdown playlist. And we try to come out every week with new stats and kind of highlight the trends in the meta. Now, notably, this is the first week that we've had data for about a week and a half of post-ban, depending on when you're catching this. So this is kind of no Fable, no Invoke, no Reckoner Bankbuster. And we're going to take a look and see what's been performing the best. We are looking May 30th through to June 4th, Platinum to Mythic rank, 23,000 games played. We'll also look at an MTGO challenge that took place, which is like a more competitive kind of mini tournament that takes place on MTGO. We're doing Platinum to Mythic because it's the start of the new season. Folks that were Mythic have been brought down to Platinum, so for the first week, I usually include that, and then towards the end of the month, we'll just phase it to just Mythic rank to see the top performing decks at the highest point of the ladder. So we'll jump into it. The top performing deck of the week is Esper Legends. And I'm going to kind of highlight 2 versions of the deck. There's about a 6% difference in terms of win rate. So we'll kind of primarily focus on this version here, but I do like some of the considerations of the sideboard better in the other version. Esper Legends is usually very customizable. It has a lot of kind of ins and outs, so you can kind of tweak it as you'd like. But the core of the deck is like Skrull for protection. You're using all legendary creatures to take advantage of Plaza heroes, as well as a number of the channel lands, which get cost reduction to be 1 mana. The engine of the deck is Rafine Scheming Seer. Whenever you attack, you connive X, where X is the number of creatures you control, draw that many, discard that many. Plays really nice synergies with things like Shieldred to gain you life. To lose with the discard, you can put it under to lose, and then you get the card advantage when to lose dies. So there's a lot of utility there. Rona taps on taps every time you cast a legendary spell, so it kind of gives you free draw. Kind of functions as a independent Rafine in a way, and then can be flipped for a big beater on the backside. Dennick is good to shut off graveyards, gives you lifelink early, and then you can play the backside or have it discarded to Rafine as well for value. Go for the Throat as a removal. Raven Man, there's a lot of ways to discard in this deck, so you take advantage and you get bird tokens, and then you can force discard out of your opponent. Gix for some card advantage. The Shelleys, 1 Urtai, 1 AO on the top end. So the sideboard on this, you got Cut Down, Surge of Salvation, Disdainful Stroke, Negates look good, Lorenz look good. The temporary lockdowns where I'm a little kind of suspicious of. The reason being, like, look how many of your cards are 2 mana. Why do you want to exile your own cards under temporary lockdown? Like in the more aggressive matchups, you have cut downs, you have stuff to deal with, those types of things. So it's a little kind of sketchy to have something like that in. The Disdainful Stroke inclusion is really good because of the ramp decks. You'll have a hard time dealing with Atraxa with only 3 go for the throats, so you have that advantage there. We look at the other Esper Legends deck. This one's not on to lose, it's on the Adelins. Kind of same shell for the most part. No Ravenmans, but cards that I like Invasion of Gobukan is really good. I like having that inclusion in there. Like the Destroy Evil is also nice. Gix Command is a sweeper, so if you're looking for a sweeper option, this has a lot more utility because then you can put lifelink on to like Rafine for a turn. You can bring back stuff from your graveyard, so it has a lot more utility, I think, in that blend. But I'll paste this deck list, and then you could just take some ideas and customize the sideboard based on what you're seeing in terms of the meta. From there, we'll go to Mono White Humans. This is I believe the top deck of Best of 1 as well. Powerful kind of human synergy deck. A little interesting. So Thalia with 7 non-creatures, but they are lower on the curve. Gobukan's really nice as a tax style effect. Notably, if you attack this down and you have no mana open and it flips and you have Thalia out, Thalia does tax the backside. So it's not it enters the battlefield, it's a cast trigger. Thalia causes it to cost 1 more mana. So be mindful of that if you're playing it. This is kind of a nice kind of tax effect that can then be an anthem for your team. Soul Partition can be used aggressively or reactively. So you can take out your opponent's stuff, or you can protect your own stuff and kind of recast it for free. Copper Coat Vanguard gives your humans a boost in power and ward. Plays nicely when you have 2 copies because they stack on each other. Initiate to get bigger. Recruitment Officer's card advantage. Scroll for protection. Adeline goes wide. Brutal Cathar's removal. And then Knight Errant of Eos as a way to drop some cards in the deck. Especially plays nice with Adeline. The Vigilance as well as just the tokens it can make. For Mishra's Foundry in the sideboard. Or in the mana base. Surge for black-red decks, Ossification is removal, Unlicensed Source for Graveyard Hate, Extraction Specialist for the heavy removal decks that are not exile-based, Lauren for Artifact Enchantment removal, Elspeth for, I like the Planeswalker package coming in against like heavy kind of sweepers or removal decks, and then Elishnorn's really good against the ramp deck. If you look at like Atrax doesn't enter the battlefield, the Dinosaur to the ramps, Topiary Stomper is an enter the battlefield. Leyline Binding, Ossification, they're all enter the battlefield style effects. So you can kind of stop them that way there. So it's the theme of Thalia decks. Well, kind of. Not really in this one. Is Thalia even in here? No. It's Thalia's Engine at heart, but it's a Soldiers deck, and this version is a Flash version. So you still have your elements of like Recruitment Officer, Yodian, Valiant Veteran, Harbin, but this version here is playing Make Disappears as a 4-of. Zephyr Sentinel is a flash creature that can protect, like, kind of rebuy your spells, and rebuy like Resolute Reinforcements, recast it there. You got Spell Pierces like Tempo plays. Toski is welcome as card advantage, and then again Knight Errant of Eos for card advantage. I tried this one out. I personally preferred the like 3-drop version with I forget the names. The ones that put counters and Sky Strike Officer. I found this one, at least against when I was playing it, Rakdos was still a thing, but you quickly get outscaled. And like you have like 1/1s, and as soon as your opponent has like a 3/2 or like a 3/3, you can't really attack in that well. Like the tempo only works well if you don't have a lot of evasive creatures either. Like tempo like this works well when you have stuff like a Delver Secret Style or like Flyers or something like that. But I don't know, I found it a little underpowered compared to the other version, but against the heavy like control decks, this version probably plays better because you can play out your opponent's end steps, you can play around sweepers a little bit better, and then the counter spells work better against like board wipes and stuff like that. Surge again for black-red protection, Denic for Graveyard Hate, Lifelink, Destroy Evil for big things, Lantern Flares removal based on creatures you have, another counter and Protect the Negotiators removal in Brutal Cathar. And then Toski is welcome for the heavier, like the grindier matchups, you bring that in to draw more cards. We then go to Selesnya Enchantments. So this is kind of a hybrid of the aggressive version of the deck and a Hallowed Haunting version, not going full Saga, but kind of in between. Calyx, Guided by Fate, is the big improvement to the deck. When itself enters the battlefield or any other enchantment with Constellation ability, you get to put a counter on any creature you control. And then if Calyx deals damage or a creature that is equipped deals damage, you get to copy a non-legendary enchantment you have. So you can like copy Hallowed Hauntings, you can copy Audacities, Spirited Companions, any of that jazz. Card advantage, or kind of rampish in a way in Restoration of Aganjo, removal and ossification, and a seal from existence. Some announcements, you can put counters on things with like Generous Visitors, cost reduction, and Jukai, some card draw kind of hidden in there, and Rite of Harmony. So a trick you can do is if you have sagas that are about to flip, on your upkeep before they flip, you cast Rite of Harmony. The sagas enter the battlefield, and then those trigger Rite of Harmony to draw you cards. The sagas flipping and entering the battlefields also trigger Constellation, because Constellation's an enter the battlefield style effect. It's not a cast effect. So some cool synergy there. The sideboards, you have Surge for the Artifact Enchantment hate, or sorry, for Black-Red hate. Circle Confinement for more early removal. Destroy Evil for big stuff. Aggressive decks, you have Catilda. Lauren to blow up artifacts, enchantments. Mother of Runes, as I mentioned, for the ramp decks. Against the heavy removal decks, or if your opponent's playing Farewell, you can shift some of it to bring in Nissa instead. And then when you're bringing in Nissa, there's another forest. Just up your land count because you're only playing 21 lands. We then go to 4-color control. So this is kind of a domain deck. So there's kind of two. There's the 5-color domain deck, and this one's more of a mid-rangey, control-y style deck. So you have Laydown Arms. Like the best way to describe it, you got a lot of basics, and then you're taking advantage of Laydown Arms. you're taking advantage of like Chromhost Seed Shark and Restoration in the main, so a bunch of ways to make tokens. You have access to Invasion New Phyrexia to make tokens that can flip into the Teferi. Courier's Briefcase fixes your mana, gets you ahead of mana. Delusion here, Wandering Emperor, Leyline. So a lot of exile-based removal, some herd migrations to get you specific colored mana, or late game it's a big beater, and then Atraxos is your big top-end finish. Basically, the sideboard's just a bunch of various removals, sweepers, counter spells. Against like heavy counterspell decks, if your opponents are bringing in things like Disdainful Stroke, you can bring in Thrun. Where needed, you have access to Farewell, and then Nis is a nice, powerful top end. Very good against any of the enchantment-based strategies. From there, you also have then 5-color domain. So this is kind of the more common of the versions at 55% roughly. So this version's looking to curve like Topiary Stomper into Invasion of Zendikar, play your 7th line from hand, and then you can attack in right away. You have Sweepers and Sunfall, Archangel to blow stuff up, Leyline Binding as removal along with Ossification, and then like your Atali, Atraxa, Herd Migration top end. And then like Lithomantic Barrage for white and blue things, Graveyard Hate. In this deck, Lockdown makes sense because you're not really playing too much. You just need to be mindful, like if you're bringing in Lockdown, it gets rid of your Ossifications as well, so they'll get that back. In the heavy counterspell matchup, you have access to Tyrannix Rex. The go wide matchups, you have access to Vanquish the Horde, and then another Mirex. Very good in these like domain mirrors, just having another access to a creature line. You often will just run it like everybody plays their stuff, and then everybody has a lot of mana, and you can just keep making tokens to pressure them that way there. So with the challenge, what I usually do is I don't go over like every single deck, but kind of highlight what performed well. Surprisingly, Blue-White Control took first place. So 3 ambitious farmhand main. You have Wandering Emperor, Teferi 5, and then Eternal Wanderer is like your main win conditions. Bunch of counters, card draws kind of mixed into there. Lay Down Arms in there, Farewell, Sunfall. Sideboard, you have Hullbreaker Horror that could come in, as well as Boonbringer Valkyrie and Chromhost Seed Shark. So you can kind of transform into a blue-white mid-range deck post-board. Your opponent's likely going to be taking out a lot of removal. And instead you can bring in these creatures afterwards, kind of beat down. Also access to just more sweepers and counters as needed. So various versions of Esper Legends. This version's also on Make Disappear, single Thalia on the mains, which is interesting. So Make Disappear helping out against the ramp decks. Again, just another version of the Legends deck. This deck's pretty cool. So it's mono white, so it's 5-color mono white, or 4-color mono white. So it's mono white, domain. So you're playing Atraxas in here, an Archangel of Wrath, 2 Elesh Norn main, Celestis. But you have like Restoration of Iganjo, Leyline Binding, Temporary Lockdown, Lay Down Arms, Sunfall. So it's like a mono white kind of control-ish deck that can then sneak in, your monocolor deck casting your 4-color legend at 7 mana. Wedding Announcements in the sideboard, some Peacekeepers, various removal, full 4 of access to Elesh Norn for the ramp matchup mirrors, which is kind of cool. Again, we just have access to Legends, mono red deck with like Invasion of Tarkir main, which is kind of cool. I forget the 1x dragon, just invasion for kind of value, Bone Crusher style. Playing the Furnace Punisher's main instead to tax the greedier mana bases. Chandras, Jayas in the side. Lots of Legends decks on the ladder. Another blue-white control deck. This one's like White Sun's Twilight in here. Legends. This is mono white aggro, Legends. Another kind of, it's basically like Thalia decks for the most part versus various mono white ramp files. The meta that's kind of shaping up. This one's kind of cool. It's a blue-white mid-range deck. In 14th place, Tenacious Underdog, Shieldred, Urtai, Fairy Mastermind, and then like a bunch of like removal and counter spells. Planeswalkers, Sorin, Kaido, Liliana, Teferi, Invasion of Amonkhet. Kind of a cool approach there. I'm just trying to find stuff. What is this? This is Grixis Reanimator with Kaido, Liliana, and then going to use Cruelty of Gix. Invasion of Amonkhet in here as well. Kind of a cool shell. But yeah, a lot of the format is what layers of ramp or Thalia attacks can I play? But you can take a look. There's 32 lists here. See if any jump out to you that you want to try out. But yeah, let me know what you think of the format. If you've been liking anything. I personally think they should have banned more stuff just to kind of create some balance, because we got rid of the Rakdos wing, which is fine, but there's still such a representation. Like, there's not a single like green based or Gruul based aggro. Like Legends and these mono white piles and like Atraxa piles are just head and shoulders the best things you can be doing, and it's hard for like the other decks. Like Atraxa comes down and just invalidates. Folks are playing 3 to 4 main decks, Sunfalls, and then following it up with Atraxa. So your board gets wiped, and now you got to deal with a 7/7. So even any of the kind of aggression you've done up to that point is often kind of laid back. The best way to address those decks is to be playing blue for Disdainful Stroke in the side. So then it's like, okay, you're kind of pigeonholed into these like blue-white, blue-black, blue-black-white, like Esper shells. So it is what it is. Let me know what you think. We'll catch you next time. Thanks for watching, everyone.